Here on the second page we have a timeline. This is a timeline showing the major events in the Shang dynasty history. As you can see, the Shang had a lot of accomplishments. They also had a lot of problems. On the third page we have a map. This is a map showing the land under rule by the Shang. This also shows the current boundaries of China. Now we have geography. As you can see, the Shang lived close to the water and took up about 1/5 of all China. In the northwest area of their dominance, there were some elevation from the plateaus. There are also some river valleys.
The Shang dynasty, according to traditional historiography, ruled in the Yellow River Valley in the 2nd millennium BC, succeeding the Xia dynasty and followed by the Zhou dynasty. The major philosophies to later shape China Taoism, Confucianism, and Buddhism had not yet been formed, and during the Shang dynasty was polytheistic, meaning the people worshipped many gods. The Shang dynasty was the first Chinese dynasty for which we have written and archaeological evidence. Most historians date the dynasty from 1600 to 1946 BC, when it was succeeded by the Zhou dynasty. The Shang dynasty was centered around the Yellow River in northeast China, but moved its capital on a number of occasions. The artist of its craftsmen has made the dynasty famous for its bronze and jade work.
The king and his family were placed on the topmost level of the ancient Chinese social pyramid. These people were the most respected, owned a large amount of land, and ruled the people in the entire kingdom. Apart from king, the higher classes were also shared by soldiers who were the second most respectable people in the ancient China. They were respected greatly due to the wealth that they possessed. Nobles were the highest ranking class after the royal class. Nobles fought in the king's armies. The nobles supplied the army with weapons, foot soldiers, and chariots. Shang nobles lived a life of luxury. They often lived in palaces and spent time hunting. Nobles hunted animals such as foxes, badgers, and other wild animals. Nobles were very highly respected by the king. In fact, the king often gave nobles symbols of power. It is believed that the Shang traded extensively. Through this dynasty, people mostly exchanged goods. They often used cowries shells as money. The shells were valuable because they came from far away. The Shang people traded with neighboring regions to get them. Farmers made up the largest social class in the society. They grew millets, wheat, barley, rice, fruits, vegetables, and nuts. They did not own the land they farmed. Their land was under control of the king or nobles. Farmers could only keep enough food to feed themselves and their families. Even after the Chinese began to make bronze and iron weapons, many farmers still used simple tools made of wood and stone. Besides growing crops, farmers learned to raise cattle, pigs, and chickens.
At the very bottom of Shang society were slaves. Many of these slaves were prisoners of the war. They spent their lives building tombs and palaces. When their master died, the slaves were sometimes sacrificed. In keeping with the Shang belief, the slaves should continue to serve their master in afterlife.
Tang abolished tyrannical policies and excessive taxes and instituted a new government which worked for the people instead of against them. During Tang's reign, conflicts eased, people lived happy lives, and the country prospered. In all areas, from economy to culture, there were great achievements. Shang rulers attached great importance to agriculture. Fishing began to grow as an industry as the people fished in the fresh waters. In the handicraft industry, the work was subtly allotted to many different workers, and crafts were made in large quantities and varieties, showcasing the different techniques used during this time.
It was during the Shang dynasty that bronze working became common. Thousands of artifacts from the ruins of Yin, the last capital of the Shang, were unearthed in the late 1920s and 30s. Bronze vessels for drinking were used in ritual ceremonies, while bronze chariots and axes were used in battle.
The Great Wall of China is a series of fortifications made of stone, brick, tempered earth, wood, and other materials, generally built along an east to west line across the historical northern borders of China to protect the Chinese states and empires against invasions of the various nomadic groups of the Eurasian steppe. Several walls were being built as early as the 7th century BC. These later joined together and made bigger and stronger are now collectively referred to as the Great Wall.
There are a lot of mountains and deserts in China, just like Turkey for mountain and Egypt for deserts. For example, there are Gobi Desert and Pamir Mountain.
These unique geographical features had a huge role for the unique civilization that ancient China Xia dynasty had. Since China is isolated from the outer world due to the mountain ranges and deserts, it developed its own culture.
Xia dynasty developed a calendar system and used oracle bones to foresee the future, just like fortune cookies. Also, the Xia dynasty was the first to irrigate and produce bronze.
They also had a strong army. Xizong, one of the emperors of the Xia dynasty, was well known for making wheeled vehicle. He also used a compass, square, and a ruler.
Xia dynasty was the first dynasty in ancient Chinese history. It obviously has the longest and deepest culture. Xia dynasty people had created a lot of inventions,
such as wheeled chariot, bronze work, and calendar system. I guess now I know why people call Xia dynasty a cradle of ancient Chinese civilization. Although some people in Xia dynasty believed in nature and spirit, biggest portion of people believed in Buddhism.
Chinese monks translated tons of sutras into Chinese, which helped to spread Buddhism all over the country. I think monks helped to set Buddhism in the Xia dynasty.
We are not sure exactly how the people of the Shao dynasty lived because there are not that much information. However, we have some information from the ancient stories and ruins of villages. The people of the Shao dynasty were very smart for their time. They used irrigation to water the fields and bricks to build. The floors of the huts were made of plaster, and plaster is a mixture of lime, cement, and water to spread on walls or on the ground. The Shao dynasty artifacts are mainly pottery. The most used materials for the artifacts are bone, ivory, and stone. The Shao dynasty was a totalitarian hereditary state. A totalitarian hereditary state is a way of ruling which is dictatorial, and when the king dies, he passes down his throne to his son.
King was on top of the Chinese social class system, and often regarded as the descendant of the heavenly king. composed of either by the royal family or the clan which contributed towards the Shah dynasty. They helped the Shah king rule the China. Peasants usually worked for the lord or nobles. They basically herd goats, pigs, and cattle for a living. Gong was the craftsman. Women mostly worked indoors while the men worked outdoors. They were usually massacred and used as sacrificial purpose. According to tradition, either great have established the Shah dynasty. After last Emperor Jie, Shah dynasty was succeeded by the Shang dynasty. Shah dynasty believed in mandates of heaven. They also followed whatever their emperor said. Writing of this, since Shah dynasty was one of the early empires in ancient Chinese history, and there weren't much people who believed in Confucianism at ancient Chinese.
Qin Dynasty by Justin, Cindy Jameson, and Lindsay Kim. Timeline. This is the timeline of Qin Dynasty. Map of Qin Dynasty. This is the map of China. Geography. Located at the far east of ancient China, with religions stretched out to South China Sea, Pacific Ocean, East China Sea, and Yellow Sea. Achievement. Built Great Wall. Took 2,000 years to build. Built strong army to grow power of Shi Hongdai. Achievement 2. Their culture was like this. The king is the best, follow him, and legalism was in place.
Lifestyle of Qin Dynasty. The lifestyle of Qin Dynasty was affected by legalism, so they were do own job, meet the standard, or else get punished with strict and harsh laws. Social hierarchy. At the bottom of the social hierarchy, there were peasants, serfs, then there were merchants, farmers, and craftsmen. Next were knights and vassals, and at the second, there were nobles. Finally, at the top of the hierarchy, there were monarchs and the emperor.
Rules of Qin Dynasty. Qin Shi Huangdi, the emperor, had ruled his kingdom with strict and harsh laws, often punishing people when they did something that is not appropriate. He burned many books and buried numerous scholars alive because they all opposed him. Qin Dynasty had a very strict governing style, which was legalism. Any who dared to disobey the emperor Shi Huangdi were killed. For example, being rude to the emperor, unmannerful behaviors, etc. Legalism was a religion believed that people needed to be controlled. The ruling style was legalism, which was very strict, and who disobeyed or acted appropriate were killed by emperor. For examples, being rude to the king, unmannerful behaviors, etc. To say simple, legalism was a religion that believed that humans are very bad by nature and therefore needs a very strict ruling society.
There were four main and most famous artifacts in ancient Qin Dynasty. The first is terracotta army. In addition is copper artifacts. The third is expensive gold jewelries, and the last is jade product.
Zhou Dynasty?
Hey, it's not Zhou Dynasty, it's Zhou Dynasty. This is audio icon. If you click this, you can hear the book.
How did the Zhou dynasty people got influenced by the geography? The Zhou dynasty built the Great Wall of China to block Mongolia. If Mongolia wasn't at the top of the Zhou dynasty, they won't have built the Great Wall of China. The farmers also used rivers to farm. They had plenty source of water. The lands were mostly plain. It was easier for them to farm.
The king led the government and gave land to lords. What is mandate of heaven?
It is the idea that heaven gave power to the king or a ruler. A person can't rule without heaven's permission. Lords paid taxes to the kings and provided warriors to protect his land. Peasants farmed the noble's land.
More facts about the kings of Zhou. Did you know that?
Zhou kings believed the mandate of heavens. These three religions were main religions that were created after the Chinese society fell into a period of disorder.
Language. People of Zhou dynasty were Chinese-speaking people who were descended from the Longshan Neolithic culture.
Hi, I'm Jenny.
Hi, I'm Daniel. So,
Hi, I'm Daniel Lee.